This is With the First Pick, the CBS Sports NFL Draft Podcast. This is episode 73. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's Rick Spielman. And today, we're looking at some of the most impressive performances by rookies and young players from week 2 of the preseason. Of course, we're talking quarterbacks. And Rick, give us a little tease here. Which young quarterback impressed you the most over the weekend?
Well, before we get started, I just had my
Go ahead.
I love the Lioness, so I want to give Ryan kudos for teaching me how to actually put the app on my television. So
on Paramount Plus, yes.
Lions on Paramount Plus. So I actually started using my reward that I won for last summer to start watching Paramount Plus. Outstanding, by the way. Highly recommend it. And to Matt, who just talked to, who was in the Navy, Virginia Beach. Did my little chat with him, and I'm going to match what he did
for St. Jude's,
for St. Jude Children's Hospital. And but credit to him, and thank him for his service and everything that the armed services do for our country. So
yeah, no, I hopped on at the end of that call. He seemed really excited to talk to you. A little troubling how much he actually liked you. So that I have some concerns about that.
It went a little south when he wanted to give me a dad joke and asked me, and I knew the answer to the dad joke.
Also worth noting, and shout out to Matt for, as you mentioned, being in the armed services and doing all that he does. He admitted to us that he was literally in a car accident while listening to this podcast, and he blamed you and Baker Mayfield. So Rick Spielman out there killing people unwittingly. So anyway, Rick, you've had time to think now. Give me a tease, and thanks again to Matt. Which quarterback did you like, rookie or otherwise, over the weekend?
You mean just quarterback wise?
Yeah, just quarterback wise.
Yeah, no, I thought the quarterback that made the biggest strides was CJ Stroud from week 1 to week 2.
All right, love it.
That and why I thought that.
All right, we'll talk about that in a second. Love that tease there. So we'll talk rookie quarterbacks already slotted to start the regular season, like Bryce Young and almost certainly CJ Stroud. Those quarterbacks who are making their cases to win the number 2 jobs. Hello, Aiden O'Connell, and Tanner McKee. Tanner McKee, it looks like a completely different person, by the way, in that Eagles uniform. We'll talk about that, as well as some young quarterbacks who are in year 2 or 3 and are also battling for starting jobs. Now, you might say, Rick, that sounds like a packed show. And I might respond, well, it is, but there's even more. I should do infomercials when I get fired from this job. We're also looking at some of our favorite rookie performances from non-quarterbacks. And there are a ton of good football to sort through, so we'll get through that. But first, if you missed it, our summer scouting series wrapped up last week, and every position breakdown is in the podcast feed. So you can go binge on that to get you ready for the old college football season. And speaking of which, this Thursday, we're going to unveil our 10 favorite 2024 NFL draft prospects heading into the aforementioned college season. So make a note. Finally, if you like what we do here, take a second to hit the old thumbs up on YouTube at NFL on CBS and subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps us grow the show, spread the word. All right, Rick, let's get to it. Let's talk some of these quarterbacks. We're going to hit on CJ Stroud, but first, let's talk about our quarterback one from a year ago, a young man, ding, 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 who struggled a little bit in week 1 of the preseason, in large part because the offensive line was a mess. And I'm talking about Bryce Young in Carolina. Came back this week, 3 for 6, 35 yards, took a sack. I thought he looked a little better, though. I thought the offensive line looked a little better. And these are the notes I had from his performance. This time around, who'd they play? They have everything down, but who they played?
The New York Giants.
They played the Giants. Thank you. That game was early on, so that's game so far my rear view. Played with a lot of poise. Plays with poise with a veteran. Consistently got through his reads despite being under constant pressure, which sounds a lot like the week 1 preseason game. I thought Carolina did a better job this week offensively in terms of protecting him, but still wasn't great. And again, you just see him hang in the pocket. He'll let the routes develop. He throws with anticipation. And he knows all that with the understanding that he's going to get smacked. And I think there are things to build on, and you have to feel good about the progress. It's not Aiden O'Connell progress, which sounds sort of funny to say out loud, but it's a different situation. He's in a situation playing with first teamers. He's not playing a ton. He only attempted 6 throws, but I think you have to feel good about his progression from the time he was drafted until right now.
Yeah, and I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I thought that he looked a little more hesitant this week. When you watch, the Giants played a lot of man coverage. There wasn't a lot of guys open. I think because he got hit so much week 1, and Thibodeau had a great game versus their left tackle. in week 2. Just looked a little more jitterish in the pocket.
Interesting. Usually we agree about Bryce in general, and maybe I'm pushing back from our buddy, and I always bring up Pete Prisco's name because he won't quit texting me about Bryce being too small, and he said some of the same things you said. By the way, we need to call out the left tackle by name, Ike Kwandu's had some struggles the first 2 weeks, and he has to play better. And I'm not being disrespectful to – I think he's a great football player. I loved him coming out of NC State, but he has to do a better job. You talk about Kayvon Thibodeau, who's a great player in his own right, having his way with him. So that's interesting. You thought Bryce – did he take a step back in your mind?
I don't think he took a step back. I just don't think we've seen the full Bryce yet.
Yeah.
And I think just because of how many times he's been getting hit, I still think they have protection issues. The one throw that I thought he could have made, he kind of rolled halfway to his left, made by a second chance in the pocket, tried to hit a guy right in the middle, about 10 yards down the field. Looked like the guy alligator armed it a little bit, but it had been great throw and great off schedule play that Bryce is that's normally. But I think he still has to learn that the windows are very tight in the NFL, especially when they played so much man coverage. And he does have to take some of those shots, but I didn't think the receivers did a great job separating either for him. So I'm not saying it's all Bryce. I just thought he's a little more skittish in a pocket because of how many times he's been getting hit over the last weeks.
No, fair enough. And that could be just subconscious at this point. You mentioned the alligator arm no catch. I thought that was a great play by Bryce. I think it felt like the receiver ran the route a little short. I don't know, but I thought the idea was good on Bryce's part. But I'm not going to push back too hard on that because it wasn't like he set the world on fire. He only threw for 35 yards and was only in there for 2 series, I believe. All right, fair enough. I'll give him a quick grade. I think last week I gave Bryce a B-. I'm going to give him another B- this time. I would have given him a B, but you tempered my expectations with that hard grade you gave him. Is Rick doing grades, or are you just going to critique mine?
I'm just critiquing yours. I'm fine with that.
All right.
I don't do mock drafts or grades, apparently. That's not my contract.
You were high maintenance. Highest paid player on the team, Debo, doesn't do anything. Just shows up for work. He's Aaron Rodgers. Although he's old Aaron Rodgers. New Aaron Rodgers is trying to be a good teammate, Rick. You could take a lesson from new Aaron Rodgers. All right. Moving on. That was the first overall pick. The second overall pick, CJ Stroud. They played the Dolphins. And, man, Skylar Thompson and the second and third team Dolphins offense went to town on the Texans defense, but that's a conversation for another time. He had 3 touchdown passes, and I think the Dolphins had 3 drives of 80-plus yards and 10-plus plays. That's not good news if you're D'Amico Ryans and worried about that defense, but we're talking about C.J. Stroud. 7-12 for 60 yards and played just 12 snaps, but I thought, and we'll see how you feel about this, Rick, he looked a lot more comfortable in the second preseason game. We remember the very first one, early last week against the Patriots, had that terrible interception, looked a little bit discombobulated and nervous in the pocket. I thought his footwork looked clean. He wasn't nervous with his feet. He threw accurately in the quick game, which is sometimes undervalued. If you can't hit the receiver or the running back in the backfield or in quick screens, it sort of can kill the play. Gave his receivers a chance for maximizing yards after catch by hitting them in stride. The ball came out quickly and on time on the wide receiver's face. And it seemed like he had a good pre-snap understanding of where he wanted to go with the ball because it did come out quicker. I don't know if you had any concerns with how he played. One of the things that I loved, I think it was the last pass he attempted, looked good on the move. And the last play, I believe he was rolling to his left on 2nd and 9, hit Noah Brown on the sidelines. What would have been a first down, but it just went through Noah's hands. Noah's got to make that catch. But it was a great understanding of the pressure. I think the pressure was coming from his blind side. He spun out of it, went to his left, and hit Noah Brown on the sidelines. Didn't make the play happen, but I think that's encouraging.
Yeah, no, I thought out of all the guys we watched, he made the biggest jump from week 1 to week 2. So I wouldn't say the first two throws looked, I was like, oh boy, here we go. But you can see him more, and I agree with you, more decisive with his decision making. Put the ball in some tight windows, made some plays when he was on the move, looked more comfortable getting through his progressions. So I thought he made a huge jump from week 1 to week 2.
I'm going to give him an A. How do you feel about that?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I thought and the arrow's pointing up, as Mike Tomlin likes to say. You go from a roughish outing in week 1 and whatever it happens to certainly looking a lot more comfortable. I don't know if D'Amico has officially announced or not, but there's no way he's not the starting quarterback, right?
No, he's definitely a starting quarterback going into the season. They're crazy if they don't play him right away.
And by the way, Davis Mills hasn't looked terrible. It's just he's on a team now that has the number 2 overall pick.
Yep. No, CJ Stroud will be the starting quarterback week 1.
All right. I talked about this guy in the intro, Aiden O'Connell, day 3 guy out of Purdue. I liked him last spring. The issues were arm strength and mobility. That hasn't changed necessarily, but man, he is smart. He seems to have a good understanding. And all right, let me temper before I go into my little praise session here, let me ask you this. When you're the quarterback, a rookie quarterback, day 3 guy, number 1, what are the expectations when you draft them in April? And number 2, how much do you have to temper those expectations when they go crazy against second and third teamers who may not be in the league in a couple
Yeah,
weeks?
no, you want to see, I think, I'm a little bit more tempered in what I saw compared to what you're about to say, because it sounds like you're going to put him in the preseason
Oh, he's in the Hall of Fame already, the real Hall of Fame.
But go ahead with your opinion, but I think he's showing progress and really has shown that he belongs and be on the 53 and the potential backup, and who knows, maybe the starter at the beginning of the season.
Starter? Oh, is Jimmy played a snap or 2?
Jimmy should be ready to go, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. But
by the way, go ahead.
I would have him start over Hoyer.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was going to ask you, should he be QB2 based on what you've seen against backups, and you feel comfortable with that?
Yep.
Because Hoyer's playing against backup as well. You made a mistake there, Rick, by the way. You mentioned Hall of Fame. We've got to congratulate you as well for your Hall of Fame induction.
Let's go. Move on. We got to get a big show to get through.
I know, but I just want to say that. I want to be on record. I'm proud of you. And Devo is too.
Thanks. Right. I make a cup of coffee when we travel again.
So Aiden O'Connell, here's what I wrote about my guy. He had back-to-back stellar weeks. He went 11 of 18 for 163 yards in this last game against the Rams, had 2 touchdown passes. I thought he was one of the best players during week 1, and this sort of seems to be repeating itself. He's accurate at all 3 levels. He threw with anticipation and looked like a 10-year vet out there. His very first throw of week 2 was to Trey Tucker. It was a little stutter go down the field, and O'Connell threw with a ton of anticipation. Now, look, Tucker's wide ass open and makes an over-the-shoulder catch, but I like the idea that Aiden O'Connell knows where to go with the ball. And he consistently made good decisions. And, again, the accuracy and the timing and the ball coming out on time and the moment's not looking too big, all were things that left me a little surprised. I mean, I like the way he played at Purdue. He played under a lot more pressure at Purdue than he's playing right now in terms of the pass rush. But I think there are things to build on, and I think he should be seriously considered for quarterback 2.
Yeah, I would agree, but I'm going to tell you this. Like Bennett at the LA Rams, because he has played so much football, he's going to look good in these preseason games. It's not too big. And as when you see these guys under the bright lights, this guy, the bright lights don't affect him whatsoever. I still think he's a better thrower between the numbers. I saw the big seam route that he hit was a great throw. I thought he missed a couple other deep throws down the field, open 7 route or a corner route. I thought, was it the first throw of the game that he left? It was a 9 route or a go ball, and I think he threw it
Trey Tucker.
Yeah. I thought he missed that.
Oh, he threw the ball out of bounds. Yep, I remember that. Yeah, I'm not sure who was the receiver.
Yeah, so you're wrong on that one, just to keep correcting. But he is most accurate between the numbers. The athletic limitations are there. He's an anticipatory thrower, but he can place the ball and give the receivers an opportunity to make plays. But I still think he needs to improve his downfield accuracy outside the numbers.
Yeah, and his touchdown throw was a fantastic throw to Cam Sims. He's 6'5", the wide receiver is. In the back of the end zone, got past the outside cornerback and just threw with anticipation, hit him right in the hands. He threw Cam Sims a ball. Oh no, I don't remember. That was the first one was in the corner of the end zone of Cam Sims, excuse me, which was a back shoulder. Let Cam go up and make a play, and he did do that. And I wrote down here, I think he's better than Brock Purdy was a year ago. Why are you laughing at me?
Well, you get your notes straight now. You got me all confused.
I got so many. I get so excited about Aiden O'Connell. Wrote down 4 pages of notes.
I gave you the answers to the test earlier, and you didn't read them. So.
That's a blank sheet of paper, Rick. I think he's better than Brock Purdy was last year when Brock Purdy was starting, but maybe that's me being too high on Aiden O'Connell after 2 preseason games.
Yep. Well, he's got a great mustache, so we can move on.
All right, I'm giving him an A, just like CJ Stroud.
Give him an A.
Okay, you okay with that?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I got a little flabbergasted and flustered there with Aiden. I got to do better.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move to Debo's new favorite player, more so than Jalen Hurts. Another day 3 guy last year who, coming out of Stanford, I did not like at all. There'd been some first-round buzz about him. I didn't understand it on any level. And then suddenly Tanner McKee gets drafted by the Eagles, the quarterback factory, and my man's balling out. 10 of 18, 147 yards, had a touchdown. Looks like a completely different player. Important to remember that the weapons around you matter. And look, he had my guy Mike Wilson last year and Elijah Higgins, but the offensive line was a clown show for Stanford. And I thought he had better arm strength than I remember at Stanford. He has a funky little motion. It reminds me a little bit of sort of Phillip Rivers.
Not that bad, but I can see it.
But I was like, I haven't seen anyone throw a football like that in a long time. Arm strength, mobility, and accuracy, decision-making in the preseason were all better than I ever saw in college. He stood in the face of pressure, kept his eyes downfield, and made anticipation throws versus pressure. So I thought the footwork at times was a little frenetic, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, agree. Very confident in his offense. He is very good with his touch and timing, especially some of the back shoulder throws that he's making down the field. He had 4 or 5 catchable balls that I thought were dropped, or he'd even have better stats. So I'm going to say this, that he's a similar type athlete than O'Connell, but better accuracy down the field, better overall arm talent. And if I had to rate the two, I would have put McGee ahead of O'Connell off what I've seen in the preseason.
Was that the case in the spring?
No, I'm just going off the preseason.
Okay, I'm just
and I liked him coming out. I did have a little bit of fondness for him, but he throws the ball without laces.
Yeah, that's how hardcore he is. Let me ask you this, because when the pick was made, I'm sure we talked about this on HQ or the podcast or both. He doesn't seem to fit the quarterback profile in Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts, obviously, and Marcus Mariota. That said, he has outplayed Marcus Mariota. And do you have to change the offense when you go from Lamar Jackson to Joe Flacco, for example?
I actually talked to someone there in Philadelphia and asked them that specific question.
Great question.
Yeah, they felt very confident that he would be able to run this offense. Now, he may not be the athlete that those other two are, but with his throwing and his accuracy and his arm talent, they thought that they wouldn't have to make much of an adjustment if he had to play in a game to what they run offensively.
Is he your QB2 or is it still Marcus Mariota?
I think he's QB2 for me. They'll go with Mariota, but I'm just telling you that he's outplayed Mariota. I do agree with you with that. But if we were stacking O'Connell and McGee, I would put McGee ahead of O'Connell.
Debo, is McKee your QB2?
Obviously, I don't think they – I think there's zero shot heading into the season he'll be QB2 on the depth chart.
I don't know why. Like, Mariota's look terrible. Like, I would be like, why? Let's throw him out there and see what happens. I mean, McKee can hand the ball off just as easily as Mariota. Mariota seems more inclined to make mistakes. But, Rick, you're an old school conservative. You would want Mariota to be number 2 no matter how bad he looks in the preseason?
Well, we don't know what's been going on in practices.
Yeah. All right.
So,
all right. I'm going to give McKee a B+.
Okay. I disagree, but I can live with that.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go on to another guy that you actually like coming out of school. Plays for the Arizona Cardinals, Clayton Tune. Another day 3 guy. There were a ton of 14 quarterbacks drafted, I believe, this time around. And some surprising and some not so much. 2 not so much a surprise. 12-24, 133 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But again, I mean, he's Colt McCoy 2.0 basically, just 12 years younger. I thought he layered the ball extremely well in intermediate throws. His first attempt of the game was just that, a layered throw on a deep out versus cover 2 that the wide receiver somehow dropped, but it certainly wasn't Tune's fault. Showed good touch again to the field side, and he has a pretty good arm, plenty of arm strength, even if it's not a rocket. Has the ability to drop the ball over the defender and shows up again and again. Doesn't panic in the face of a free blitzer through the A gap. Knew where the hot was, waits for the running back to get there. This was a pretty impressive play. I mean, it's simple. It's a little hot throw to the running back. But the fact that he was patient, the fact that the linebacker was in his face, he just had to wait for the running back to get to his spot and turn around, and then he gets the ball and allows for ability for yards after the catch. Those little things, I would imagine coaches appreciate, but it was sort of fun to watch someone who could spin it. We saw him spin it, of course, in college, sort of take that to the next level and has some success there. Works the pocket well, climbs the pocket well, his eyes downfield, and hit a receiver on a dagger concept on the right side. That's just another note. So I was really happy with the way he played. I didn't watch him play in week 1. And again, I would imagine there's an opportunity for him to be quarterback 2. Colt McCoy's pretty solid, more solid than Mariota in Philadelphia, I think, in that conversation. But you have to like what he's done so far.
Yeah, completed a lot of short and intermediate passes in the middle of the field. Saw the 2 deep TD passes that came in the red zone. I didn't think he was as accurate down the field. He forced some throws into coverage, but he didn't have any turnovers. I do like the fact that he's not afraid to take his shots down the field. More athletic. I thought he was more athletic in his movement skills than O'Connell and McGee, but not as good of a thrower. So I thought he was good, not great. I see him as a 3, as a 2 to McCoy till whatchamacallit comes back.
Kyler
Murray.
Yep. All right, I gave him a B. Does this feel? How often would you go back? I would imagine, depending on your roster at the time, but would you spend a lot of time as general manager watching tape on backup quarterbacks in the preseason?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, compare them to what you have on your roster.
Does this feel like a pretty good group of rookies, or is that just
way better class than what we saw last year?
Yeah, this feels like these guys don't seem overwhelmed.
No.
And
you got to look at a lot of these guys we talked about, especially O'Connell, Toon, Stetson Bennett. All those guys have played a lot of college football, so it's not as big as them for them as some of the other quarterbacks that maybe have not played as much.
Speaking of which, how concerned, if at all, because Shane Steichen, the first-year head coach in Indianapolis, said we get a lot out of these joint practices. I didn't play Anthony Richardson in week 2 of the preseason. For that reason, we let Debo's guy, Gardner Minshew, start. And to talk about experience, Anthony Richardson has 13 career starts at Florida. Would you have liked to see him out there, or is there some truth in the idea that these joint practices are more important?
No, you're relying on your coaches and your coaching staff to say, hey, this guy, we know the work he needs to get ready to be the starter during the season, and you're trusting that they've got enough work in the joint practices and in training camp to not throw him out there.
Are joint practices more important depending on the position, maybe?
I think there's a lot of benefit to joint practices. And more than it is, throwing, especially for the veterans, instead of throwing them out there in a preseason game and potentially losing somebody. But yeah. I still think that, like Andy Reid, to me, is why he's such a great coach, is he throws his starters out there. Mahomes played.
Mm-hmm.
What does Mahomes have to prove in a preseason? But it gives you a chance to get some of that rhythm, some of that timing. Aaron Rodgers is scheduled to play for the Jets in the final preseason game, just to get out there, get in the huddle, and get under the lights a little bit. I don't know if there's a benefit or if there's any research that players not playing in the preseason, how they perform week 1, the players that did at least play a series or 2 in the preseason, they get their feet wet in game-like conditions. But I do believe you get more benefit in the combined practices.
Okay. Well, a guy who's gotten a lot of benefit in terms of playing, especially in these preseason games, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, another day 3 rookie out of UCLA.
Another guy that's played a lot of college football.
Played a lot of college football, that's right.
Is there a theme going on in here on the guys that have played a lot at the position, usually show up pretty good in the preseason?
CJ played a lot. Bryce played a lot. Anthony Richardson, not so much. Will Levis played a lot. So top of the draft, those guys had a lot of reps except for super freak Anthony Richardson. But to your point, Dorian Thompson-Robinson looks like a grizzled veteran with the way he's played. He played in the Hall of Fame game as well. They played Debo's Eagles. I think his footwork has gotten a ton better since college. His accuracy has gotten a ton better since college. Somehow he's throwing with anticipation. Again, like Tanner McKee, I think the lesson for me personally is that what you see at age 21, 22 isn't the finished product, and you have to be willing to understand that. And to your point, coaching has a lot to do with it once you get to the NFL and telling the coaches to get the most out of these players. But I give DTR a lot of credit. I'm sure a lot of this is just strong-willed and hard work. And he looks like, again, a guy who could be considered for the number 2 job. And I don't want to say pretty easily. It's Josh Dobbs and Kellen Mond there, but he's outplayed those players. And he feels they're all really good athletes, but I think he fits the sort of the athlete, the prototype of what Deshaun Watson is ahead of him.
Yeah, I thought he took a little step back this week, to be honest with you.
Oh, how come?
I went back and watched. I just didn't think he was as accurate. Now, the two throws that impressed me the most was he made two incredible throws down the field as he was getting hit in the pocket, which I thought was not only showing his courage in the pocket to take a hit, but still deliver the ball with accuracy on time, knowing that he's going to take a hit. But I thought he missed some throws that he didn't miss in the other preseason games. But there's no question that he's making a claim for the number 2 spot. And I even went back and watched Dobbs a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought he's outplayed Dobbs, at least in the preseason.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised again. But to the overall point that you've talked about here, these quarterbacks have a ton of experience and they're playing like it. And you're not seeing some of the, like Easton Stick struggled a little bit last night in the game the little bit of the game that I watched, the Chargers game. He's been around, but it's not easy. And I think these guys are sort of making it look easy. I'm going to give DTR an A-.
That's fine.
Okay. Not too much pushback, Debo, from Rick on these grades. So must be doing a great job.
Yeah. No one's listening to him anyway. It's like you're
Imagine if he had this little pushback on your mock drafts.
Yeah, we could all get along happily. I love the way, by the way, Matt, who just spoke with Rick, our military service guy who won the St. Jude's, won in quotation marks, St. Jude's chit chat with Rick, thinks Rick's funny. So that, again, raises red flags about on Matt's scouting report. So dad jokes and Rick's funny. All right, Rick. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll discuss this little tease here. Watch this. Which second-year quarterback has taken the biggest leap since his rookie season? Tell you right after this.
The man, the myth, the Messi. Catch Inter Miami take on FC Cincinnati in the U.S. Open Cup on the all-new Golazo Network.
Lionel Messi. If you're listening on the audio version, it was a commercial for Paramount Plus, U.S. Open Cup, FC Cincinnati versus FC Messi, also known as Inter Miami. I'll ask. We'll do a little pop quiz because you're a soccer fan. Where's Messi from? That's an easy one.
Portugal.
That's Ronaldo.
Oh. Somewhere Spanish.
He's Argentinian. By the way, in Portugal they speak Portuguese, not Spanish. But all right, let me continue to pump up Leo Messi. He's going to be on Paramount Plus. He's going to be on the Golazo Network. So please check that out. He has been revolutionary to MLS soccer. They have yet to play it.
Yeah, when you go get a superstar like that, and then you put him on a team like
not just a team, they put him on the not to be disrespectful to Chris, on the 0-16 Lions.
Yeah.
And he turned them so far into a playoff team. Like, what's funny is they played all non-league games. So Inter Miami is still last place in the MLS standings out of the race for the playoffs. But Debo, there's a chance they can still make it.
Oh yeah, good chance.
Yeah.
Their odds to win the whole thing in MLS, the MLS Cup at the end of the season aren't too bad. If you want to hop on that, Rick.
Dollar bet, Rick. Do they win the MLS Cup?
I'll bet you $1 that they come from the bottom.
They are literally dead last 15th out of 15 teams in the Eastern Conference. The top 9 teams make the playoffs. So they are 6 teams out of the qualifying for that.
How excited and how fortunate at Paramount Plus that you can watch Messi on Messier, whatever his name is.
Leo Messi. Oh boy. Messier is the hockey player.
Plus, now that I have it working, I can't wait to tune in.
Yeah, I'm excited about this because I haven't seen him yet in the League Cup games, and he's an absolute game changer. Also helps to have Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets from Barcelona with him there. But hey, more fun for everybody. And our buddy Thomas Rongen calls those games locally, I believe. So
plus 550 to win the MLS Cup at the end of the season. So Rick, if you win that, we'll send you $6.50 total.
So
yeah, that's right.
$1, do I win $5.50?
Plus the one you bet.
Plus the one I bet. So I would win $6.50.
What are you going to give it that $6.50?
I'm going to put it towards the fund for St. Jude's.
There you go.
They're going to all the winnings that I'm having will go to St. Jude's.
All right. So I teased before the break my sleeper for MVP, league MVP. I'm sort of joking. But before I do that, I want to say I was watching a ton of preseason on Saturday because I was doing the HQ recap late. And I was watching the Vikings game, and your guy, Paul Allen, the voice of Minnesota Vikings football, was in the booth. I haven't seen him in a while. That man has a great head of hair. He makes your hair look like my hair. I mean, that is, I don't know if he usually keeps it long, but he looked like a movie star.
Yeah, long hair, and he's really went silver.
Yeah.
Really, especially after calling all those close games last year.
But yeah, he's great to listen to. I don't listen to a lot of him, obviously, because I'm not in Minnesota, but I was surprised to see what a head of hair that man had. I bet you secretly were very jealous walking around the building seeing that head of hair next to your head of hair.
There was a little contest on who had a better head of hair.
Is that true?
No.
I can see that 100% being true. That's true, Debo. All right, let's get back to football here. And let's talk about my dark horse to win MVP, Kenneth Pickett IV.
Ooh.
Kenny Pickett, I don't think he's going to win MVP, but he's played great in basically 2.5, 3 series over 2 games. 3 of 4 against the Bills' first-team defense for 43 yards, including a touchdown pass to Pat Freiermuth after a long kick return by my guy, Calvin Austin III, who Rick does not like.
I like this little gadget guy.
Yeah, I'm high on him. But George Pickens had a catch on the drive. Allen Robinson had a drop on the sideline. That was the only drop on a nice little roll right by Kenny Pickett. How often are the strides from year 1 to year 2 for your guy at quarterback this pronounced? It seems like he's made huge strides. Does it typically happen like this?
Yes, same thing. And the next guy we'll talk about, because they had game exposure last year and had the ability to go out there and get in NFL games at real-time speed, they make the preseason. And Kenny Pickett has made the preseason look very easy and understands the offense, understands where to go with the ball. He looks ready for week 1.
I didn't love Kenny Pickett coming out, and Pete always reminds me of that. Pete Prisco, our buddy. And again, he's older. He's 25 now, but he is. Let me ask you this. Even though you played a ton of football, how much different is the NFL game for quarterbacks given the speed and the athleticism and the small windows?
Yeah, totally night and day different, because you have to anticipate throws and you have to get the ball out before the receiver makes the break. That's the timing with the receiver. The critical thing is, in college, guys, they throw to guys that are open.
Right.
In the NFL, you have to throw guys open. And what that means is you're anticipating, you put the ball out in front of them a lot of times before they even get out of their breaks. Or if they are in tight coverage, a lot of times, like a corner route, okay, depending on if the safety's high, then you're going to underthrow it a little bit so he comes back to the ball. Or if the corner's underneath him, you don't see a safety over top, then you're going to put it deeper so
right.
adjust to the ball. But you learn how to throw the receiver open, which you don't have to do as much in college.
Yeah, I am an A. I was pleasantly surprised, not pleasantly surprised, but surprised that he continues to play as well as he does. And that's great news for the Steelers offense. Great news for offense coordinator Matt Canada, who's come under fire in recent years. And maybe they'll open things up. If you're the Bills, just let me ask you quickly. They had 12 first half penalties. Not all with the first team, but there was it's a recurring theme because it happened in week 1 too. Sean McDermott mentioned that he wasn't happy about it. How do you fix that? Because these are just, brain farts.
Right. No, those are things that are going to be the point of emphasis that you try to work on during practice, and whatever method, whether it's, some coaches punish, others do different methods, but you got to find a method to try to get that corrected, because those are killers, especially pre-snap penalties, either on offense or defensive side of the ball, can cost you games.
Yep. Okay. I gave Kenny Pickett an A. That was conservative grade. He probably deserves an A with three pluses and a smiley face, but I'll just give him an A. Let's go to Atlanta. Desmond Ridder, who I was really excited to watch because started the last few games towards the end of last season after Mariota got benched, and played against the Bengals in a game that didn't have a lot of points. But in terms of watching Des Ridder, there's some things I like. His footwork looks a lot better. The ball comes out pretty quick. He seems to know where to go with the football. Now, I still saw glimpses, not as frequently as I did in college, of him struggling with accuracy on shortish throws. There was a throw, the first one to Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts had to reach behind him on what should have been a pretty easy pitch and catch. I think Drake London, maybe Bijan had to do the same thing on the other side on a shortish throw and a little screen pass. But then you come back and he rips a a slant to Cardale Hodge that hits him right in the face. And that's exactly what you want. I love Des Ridder in terms of a leader, in terms of how he interacts with his teammates, in terms of working hard and expectations. And I think he's moving in the right direction. But there's some things that I still think he needs to iron out.
I think he's made tremendous strides. And
okay,
to me, the stride throwing that back shoulder to Drake London along the sideline.
That was a fantastic throw. That's right.
Yeah. And then some of these guys, the Bijans and the adjustment, they're, you want to see him hit him in stride, but those guys get paid a lot of money to make those type of catches as well.
Yeah, but let me ask you this, just to interrupt you, sorry. But if you hit Kyle Pitts in stride, if you hit Bijan in stride, it takes a 5-yard gain and makes it a 12-yard gain. That's the point, though, right?
Right. But I'm going to ask you this, since you're a connoisseur of film watching, was he under pressure or not under pressure on those throws? Or
no, the throw to Bijan was a screen, I believe. I'll have to go back and check. The Kyle Pitts throw wasn't under pressure either, I don't believe.
Okay.
I'll double check. But I felt like they were throws that
the reason they was because he wasn't as much under pressure as he was throwing off his back foot, which is a technical thing.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you that. That I agree with. Okay. So you feel comfortable with where Des Ridder is in his progress in terms of being a starter.
Pickett, because they played him last year, that experience is showing up now. And I think that was a huge benefit for Atlanta and for Ridder to get that game experience. And I think that will carry over into the season this year.
Okay. I'm going to give Desmond Ridder a B+. How you feel about that?
I love that. That's a great grade.
Wow. Okay. All right. Let's move to last year's darling, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, who prior to that, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but do you remember Brock Purdy's junior year? Were there conversations? Did you guys have like a top 100 grade on him? Do you remember that far back?
I know we liked him.
Yeah.
Senior year didn't have a great year.
That's right.
Junior year, so, but that's digging way deep into the well.
My point is that he actually had shown the ability to be a good quarterback, and then I think he felt the pressure of trying to do too much his final year at Iowa State, and it sort of went sideways on him. So it's not it's a surprise what he did last year, no doubt about it. But it's not like he just started playing football 2 weeks ago. No. That's it. It's the first time he's thrown a pass since Debo's Eagles tried to kill him in that playoff game. And he looked fine. His arm strength is what it is. His arm strength looked fine. Looked average, a little better than average. I thought he got the ball out on the short throws. Made one good throw down the field to Juwan Jennings. Not a lot to take away from it. I thought he missed some throws as well. But I'll get your reaction to it, and then I want to ask you a follow-up about Brock Purdy.
What are you asking me first?
What do you think about his performance?
Yeah, I thought the biggest thing that came out of this is to put him back in a game after the injury and for him to make throws and to let it rip for his confidence and his ability to get over that mental hurdle. And I thought by playing him this week and some of the throws that he made that he was able to do that.
Yeah, I agree with all of it. He looked much more in command of the offense than Trey Lance ever has. And no disrespect to Trey Lance. I'm just telling you what it looks like when you watch him play. Not the athlete, but he's a pretty good athlete. It just, he's not going to beat Trey Lance in a foot race. Doesn't have Trey Lance's arm strength, but he does everything or a lot of the things that Kyle Shanahan wants him to do. And you don't sense that he's struggling to see the field that sometimes we see from Trey Lance. And we'll talk about Trey Lance in a second. But I wanted to ask you this before we do get to Trey. Is there a situation where Sam Darnold's going to end up being the starter on this team, not because of injury, just because he's the guy that Kyle Shanahan can rely on the most? Because no,
don't even go down that road. Purdy's a starting quarterback. Are you kidding me?
Any concern about 1 year wonder type stuff, or have you seen it? You've seen it.
No, you've seen it. He won 8 games in a row. You just been through training camp with him. You just saw how he threw the ball coming off that surgery in a game situation. There's no question. You're making issues that don't need to be made right now.
Providing answers to questions that were never asked.
Right.
All right, I'm going to give Brock a B. Steady as she goes. Happy with his performance. Glad he's back on the field, and he looked pretty good.
I'm giving him an A+ over the mental hurdle that he just got over.
Okay, fair enough.
That'll lead into better things going forward now that he's gotten that question answered in his mind and being able to go out there and actually play in an NFL, even though it was a preseason game, playing an NFL game after knowing that he's going to get hit knowing he's going to have to go out and run the offense, make the calls and everything else. That's a huge, huge mental hurdle to get over.
All right, Debo, I'll give him an A. We'll split the difference, because if Rick's going to come out of retirement to give a grade, which he never does, it's a big deal. Mental hurdle is a big thing. And he seems like a pretty tough kid, but I get it. Your elbow wasn't working for the last 6 months, and now it is. All right, let's go to Trey Lance. There were some better things, and there's some things I was like, oh, boy, this is not getting better. 12 of 18, 173 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Started 4 of 8, and, boy, that 4 of 8 was shaky. He threw an interception on a screen that went awry. The defensive lineman made a play. Should have had 2 other interceptions, by the way, over the course of his time on the field. One was thrown to the middle of the field to the tight end, I believe, and he didn't see our guy Drew Sanders on the backside, just the up-ball linebacker standing there watching the quarterback. And I don't know how you don't see that. Not necessarily an NFL quarterback, but any quarterback with 2 working eyes. But I thought he came back. I mentioned he finished 8 of 10, led the game-winning field goal drive to set that up, had the touchdown drive the series before that. And here's what my overall takeaway. Well-defined reads on short and intermediate throws are where he's at his best because of his arm strength. He struggles when coverage is muddy and doesn't rely on his legs nearly as much as perhaps he should at this point in his development. Shows flashes of confidence, but feels a good ways behind Purdy and Darnold when it comes to running this offense for Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, no, I thought he made huge strides from what we saw last week, and I agree. He puts the ball up in harm's way. Dumb throw. I won't say dumb. Ill-advised throw on the screen. You can't throw an interception there. But the one thing that even though that really told me that he's growing is that as ups and downs as he had earlier in the game, what he did in that 2-minute drive to take him down the field and put him in the game-winning field goal range, I thought was excellent.
And I'll give him credit. He threw a corner out to, I think it was our guy Cam Latu, and he got smacked in the chin. And he waited. He threw with a ton of anticipation. He might have got hit from the backside, so it was a blindside hit from our guy Nick Benito, if I recall correctly, who I loved coming out of Oklahoma. He was so twitched up, and he was giving the left tackle all sorts of trouble late in that game. So he hit Trey Lance in the back. Trey Lance got rid of the ball as he was getting hit and slightly underthrew Cam Latu, but I thought he came back and made the play, if I remember the play correctly. And I like that part about it. But it's hard to get over the hard to explain throws that are intercepted or almost intercepted.
Yeah, and those are the things that you like kind of cringe, like I said, he did a lot of positive things, but it just doesn't look the same as even as we saw some of these other quarterbacks, and your Hall of Famer O'Connell.
Yes.
Comfortable. I liked McGee, and he looked comfortable. Whatever his name is, Debo.
McKee.
We will get comments.
He's the striker for Portugal.
Yeah.
Tanner McKee.
Yeah, just another Philly guy. But
all right, Rick. Sorry, I got to interrupt you. Quick question from Andrew Collins in the chat. What language do they speak in Brazil?
Brazilian?
No.
Spanish. Everybody.
No, it's not Spanish.
What is it?
Portuguese.
Portuguese in Brazil?
Yeah.
Aren't they on 2 opposite continents?
Yeah, but they do have things called steamboats and airplanes, so you can travel. All right, go ahead. You're talking about Tanner McKee.
They just look comfortable, and I still think that your gut kind of wrenches when Trey Lance is in there still. You don't feel totally confident. I don't know what it is. It's just a gut instinct when you're watching him, and I give him credit for what he did at the end of the game and made some of the throws, and he flashes enough. But if, let's say you're a GM and you're looking to trade for a guy, and let's say he's up on a trade block, I just don't know how confident you feel in how natural does he play the position, I guess.
All right, let me ask you that, because that's what I was going to ask something similar. Let's say you had a top 10 grade on Trey Lance coming out. You didn't get him. He went to San Francisco, and now you have an opportunity to trade for him 2.5, 3 years later, and the same coaching staff, same front office and all that, and your quarterback's coach still loves him, your OC still loves him, and they think they can fix him. Or how's that conversation take place, I guess?
That's when you're sitting there as a staff and with your coaches and watching the preseason tapes, watching every throw he's made in the NFL and trying to dissect why they feel so strongly about him. Because a lot of times coaches will remember what they saw in college,
right?
But they don't spend any time. They're worried about their own, whoever they're coaching or their own team. And so you have to make sure you take some time to sit and evaluate the tape with them to see if they feel the same way. Because they can bark up in a meeting, oh, yeah, I love Trey Lance when he came out. Well, great. Have you seen it play the last couple of years or when he
Right.
played? So those are the times you have those group film study sessions with the coaches to make sure they feel just as strongly. And sometimes they don't.
So if you're John Lynch and he gets a call for a 4th round pick for Trey Lance, would you do that?
I don't think they'll give him away yet.
Okay. But he doesn't appear to be the number 2, though.
I don't think you give him away yet.
No, I hear that part, but I think Sam Darnold's the number 2.
Well,
You're just not answering that question?
yeah.
Okay.
Sam Darnold's had his chances too.
Fair enough. That's true. All right. Well, we'll see. There's one more preseason game to go. To your point, and I should reiterate this, he did make a lot of progress, Trey Lance. Just some minimize the mistakes, and then we're cooking with gas there. But it was a much better performance than the Raiders game, which was troubling at times to watch. So that's good, I suppose. All right. Gonna take a break here in a second. Another tease, Rick. Which rookie non-quarterback feels like a lock for rookie of the year after just one game? And I'm in no way overreacting, Rick, but I'll tell you who it is right after the break.
Fight for something. First play of the game to the last play of the game. 1, 2, 3.
And we got 2 of the hottest conferences. This is big time college ball.
They're going to come. We're going to come.
2 big boys getting ready to play. Big, being the operative word here. And here they come.
By the way, I don't know if I gave a grade, but Trey Lance gave him a B. I appreciated the progress that he made.
Okay, I wouldn't have given him that high, but that's fine.
Okay. All right.
B saved him because of the 2-minute drill.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about some rookie non-quarterbacks who flashed. And we'll go to our guy, Will Anderson, number 3 overall pick. Texans traded back up to get him. He was our edge 1 for the duration of the draft process. 2 tackles, 1 sack, 1 quarterback hit, 1 tackle for loss, 1 forced fumble, and he was on the field for a handful of plays.
That's all one play, just so you know when you're looking at it.
What'd you say? Oh, yeah, but it still goes in the stat sheet is all that stuff.
Yeah, right. Well, the stat sheet can be misleading when you say, oh, yeah, he caused a fumble in the game. He did this. It's like not 5 different plays. It's all on one play.
Yeah, he played 13 snaps. I'm hearing Rickson give an F for his grade, but that's okay. I'll support you, Will Anderson. He looked better than I remembered last year at Alabama. We talked last year about he wasn't quite the player for double teams or whatever reason than he was in 2021. He looks thicker, lower body. He's incredibly stout at the point. He consistently made the right tackle, number 73, have to re-anchor. And then we saw him win around the edge with a little twitch. His hand usage is fantastic. And he was causing problems on the 13 snaps. I thought he was on the field. I thought he did well both as a pass rusher and against the run.
I would say this, that from week 1 to week 2, he made progress because I went back and watched all his pass rushes against New England.
Okay, I didn't watch him at all against New England. What'd you see?
Yeah, and so in this game, he does have a quick first step. They're lining him out wider, which so they can utilize his athletic skill set. He can really bend and dip at the corner. I really like that. I think he still needs to develop a counter move. He's just relying on his speed right now. But he had that sack cause fumble by blowing up. It was a running back. He didn't blow up an offensive tackle.
I think they left him on block and let the running back come over to, for some reason, try to block Will Anderson.
But this guy plays hard, which I love. I thought he took a step forward as a pass rusher this week. I still think he's still growing, and I like to see him with that speed to come with some type of counter move. You
still like the pick, though, because last year Jerry Hughes, 34 years old, had led the team in sacks, and you needed to fix that, right?
Yeah. No, I love the pick. So I think he's going to be a really good player.
Okay. I'm going to give him an A-. How are you with that?
Good.
All right. Yeah. Good start for Will Anderson. Otherwise, that defense had some trouble. But it wasn't just the first-team defense. They just couldn't – when you can't stop Skylar Thompson, it's going to be a long practice when you get back on the field. All right. And by the way, Debo notes, we'll have a full Rookie of the Year prediction show coming up soon.
Oh, boy. Can't wait for that one.
I feel like you're being sarcastic.
Never.
Way to sell the show, Rick.
Oh,
How do you get to do promotions like Ryan? Yeah.
Look.
We'll be coming with our rookie of the year predictions coming up in the next show on With the First Pick.
hit the button, Diva, the one where he says he loves me so much. That was his best one yet. All right. Next up. You know him, you love him. Number 46 on your program, number 1 in Rick's heart, Jack Campbell, off-ball linebacker, first-round pick out of Iowa, playing for the old Lions there. Played mostly off-ball, but they lined him up on the line of scrimmage a couple times. And I was actually, I was like, who is that? Because I made the mistake last week of saying I thought he struggled to get off the line blocks, which he didn't. I corrected myself. But you read through the comments and people were whinging about what was I watching? I was reading my wrong notes. He gets off blocks consistently off of offensive linemen, and it's actually a lot of fun to watch. He's so incredibly instinctive. He's so smart. He has sideline to sideline speed. He's a great tackler. He does everything you want. He moves well in space in terms of coverage. But he was on lined up at the line of scrimmage over the tight end a few times. And he struggled getting off the tight end block. And I was like, who was that? It was our guy, Brenton Strange, the rookie from Penn State. That guy's a grown man. So that was fun to watch. But I think Jack Campbell and Dan Campbell, the head coach, said after the game, it looks like he's been playing football for 20 years or whatever. And this is another reason I feel like to be excited about this defense.
Yeah, this is my favorite defensive rookie I've watched all preseason to date. And the one thing that really is impressive is he knows how to find the ball. He knows how to use his hands off blocks. And when you see him stacked and he kind of slides and then you see the running back cut back, he just has a natural feel for where that running back's coming in the hole. And he'll step up and make a very solid tackle in line. He showed range. He's good in coverage. A couple of times they had him just beelining out to the flat, covering the running back. But the other thing that impressed me the most was in coverage when he's dropping in zone and you have those deep crossers, he has a knack for having a feel and finding where the deep crosser is coming and taking that option away from the quarterback. This guy's an excellent football player, and he's going to have the way he's playing right now in the preseason and what I saw in the combined practices, this guy is definitely going to be a candidate for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, this feels like a layup in terms of how him playing a lot of football, not him necessarily winning Rookie of the Year, but just how good he's been and what a good pick that this was. Even though we talked about at the time unconventional draft picks for the Lions and taking Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round and then taking Campbell here, but it turns out those guys are going to be difference makers from day one. And one of the things I want that sort of stuck out to me, we talk a lot about the off-ball linebackers being undersized, 225, 230, whatever. And they're not going to be thumpers in terms of tackling. Jack Campbell's a thumper. Like, he hits you and you go down.
He's a grown man playing middle linebacker, and old school from a size standpoint, but new school for that size to be as athletic as he is.
Yeah, worth noting, by the way, we talked about this young man last week, rookie DeMarvion Overshone. He tore his ACL in the game, so he's done for the season in week 2, and he did some good things in week 1. So unfortunately, his season is done. But Jack Campbell's still out there making things happen. I'm going to give him an A, and the only reason I'm not giving an A+ is because Tank Bixby beat him to the edge on one play. Jack wasn't responsible for setting the edge, but Tank turned the corner on him. What do you got, Rick?
Yeah, I love Tank Bixby. That was my guy coming out.
Yeah, and Tank showed a little juice, but Jack made a ton of plays elsewhere. And again, he wasn't responsible for setting the edge. I think the right defensive end didn't do his job. At least that's what I'm telling people. All right, A for Jack Campbell. Next up, a guy who technically was a first-round pick. Actually went top of the second round because there are only 31 picks in the first round. Joey Porter Jr., cornerback out of Penn State, plays for the Steelers. Didn't play in week 1 because of an ankle injury. Had a tackle, had an interception, and a pass defended I think he was on the field for 17 pass plays. And look, his very first target was against Steph Diggs on a slant in man coverage, and Steph Diggs won that rep, which is what you would expect. But what I'd liked is that Joey made the tackle for no gain. It wasn't a huge yak opportunity. He played a lot of off zone and what they had him doing. He can get his hands on you. I thought he recovered pretty well in space, and they're going to need him to play a lot to allow Patrick Peterson to move around in the secondary And Pat P and BMAC have talked about that a lot on All Things Covered. You can listen to that wherever you get your podcast as well. But I thought it was a good first showing, and especially given, Matt Barkley had 3 interceptions, the backup quarterback for the Bills. He had a terrible evening. But the fact that Joey Porter Jr. got an interception, his first interception, didn't have one all last season, had one in his college career, I think that's a sign that he can actually catch the football.
Yeah, and didn't get any chances of run support, so the tackle that was recorded was on that slant route, but he was in great position versus a pretty good receiver. But the interception, what impressed me the most is they were in like a shell coverage, kind of like a cover 2 look. And what he did was rerouted the receiver out of bounds, which made him ineligible to make the catch. And then he dropped into the honey hole and read that ball, went up and got the ball. And it was a great play. Just one, because he took the receiver out by just jamming him at the line of scrimmage, and 2, dropping back into that honey hole, which in cover 2 is between the corner and where the safety is along the sideline, and went up and high pointed the ball, made a great catch and a great play.
Let me ask you about.
I think he looks like a starter in the league.
And he's plenty physical. Sometimes physicality is what you worry about with young players. Let me ask you about that interception, though. So Khalil Shakir was the wide receiver. Why in God's name is he letting Joey Porter push him out of bounds?
Well, Joey Porter has some man strength to him for a corner as well.
But if you're the wide receivers coach for the Bills, you're having a conversation with Khalil Shakir, I would imagine.
You got to stay in bounds. and Joey Porter Jr. just took him and rode him out of bounds, which made him ineligible, and then went up and made the play.
And there was I would imagine it's a particularly heady play. You can push him out of bounds. You understand that rule. But to get your head back around and see where the ball is and then to make the interception, you might just push him out of bounds and drop into coverage. Instead, he went close to the line of scrimmage, which seems like a pretty smart thing to do for a young player.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to give Joey Porter Jr. a B+.
That's fine, because he didn't have much action in run support.
No.
Solid in coverage all day.
But I think he was pretty good run support for Penn State, and I'm guessing that won't change.
Nope.
But we didn't get a chance to see it for sure. All right. I'll untease the spoiler from the break. This guy is my layup to win Rookie of the Year, and maybe even MVP if Kenny Pickett doesn't win MVP. Bijan Robinson.
Oh, you're going way down the list.
I think he's next. Yeah, he's next on the list. Who do you have?
Oh, I don't know. Debo sends me a separate list.
Is Bijan on your list as well, Debo?
Yeah. I was just looking up. He is your offensive Rookie of the Year favorite at plus 300.
What about overall Rookie of the Year? Do you have that?
That's what they do, offensive and defensive.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no single award. Oh, he's so good. He might win Defensive Rookie of the Year too, though, Rick, as him and Hall over there.
You want to put him Offensive Player of the Year, MVP? You ready for that?
What's MVP?
Just the MVP of the league.
Yeah, no, I know what that means. What is his number for MVP?
Let me find that up. I didn't think that he would be in that category.
All right, I'll start with Bijan while you look that up.
Don't waste your time.
What? He wasn't on the field for a lot. He had 4 rushes, 20 yards, had 1 reception for 6 yards on that catch that we talked about previously when we were talking about Desmond Ridder. I feel like this isn't even a hot take, but tell me what you think. He's more important to this offense than Drake London or Kyle Pitts.
I agree.
Okay. Not than Des Ridder. Obviously, Des Ridder has to do his things. I thought Ridder looked pretty good on the one series, but Robinson is the best kind of security blanket for a young quarterback. His first carry, sweet Jesus. Woo! And Bengals safety Nick Scott, who's going to be a starter, I believe, came downhill, and I don't know if he laid a hair on Bijan, who did a little shuffle in the hole, little jump cut at full speed, and he just went flying by. The old Top Gun reference there. And that was a fun start to Bijan's preseason career. And I think it's going to be a lot of that going forward. I think you just keep feeding him the ball. You get him the ball in space. You get him the ball in the passing game. And then you open up things for aforementioned London and Pitts. And hopefully Des Ridder gets him the ball on time.
The 4 chances or opportunities that he had, and to show what he showed in those 4 chances tells you what kind of special player that he's going to be. And I would say this. I would say that everything you saw on the college tape showed up in that small sample size of what we've seen in that game.
Yep.
Just for those curious, a lot of sites do not have him as a rookie listed kind of on the MVP odds board, but a couple have him at 200 to 1.
Shocking.
Make it happen. All right, Rick, let's pick it up a little bit. I didn't realize we're so late into the show here. I know you got a million things to do. By the way, I got to go get my dog in a little bit this afternoon. He got neutered today, so he's gonna be super pumped to see me. So that's on my schedule.
My first dog, I did him all neuter now, but I was on the way to the doctor's and I looked at him in the face and turned around. I couldn't do it.
You really didn't do it?
I couldn't do it.
Oh man, see, you're soft at heart. All right, this guy's also a dog. Man, these things are. I'm coming fast and furious with these things here. Nolan Smith, Debo's guy. One of the millions of first-round picks the Eagles had last spring. Not surprisingly, lined up mostly as a 9-tech. He gets after it. I don't know what he weighs now. He was in the 230s coming out of Georgia. He's so much stronger than he looks, and he plays, as Rick likes to say, with his hair on fire. He has one move, and that's just the bull rush or, try to beat you around the corner. That's it. I'd like to see him diversify that. But he is hard to handle, and Debo tried to convince me that he abused DeJuan Jones all evening. He did not. I thought DeJuan Jones did a pretty good job against what must have felt like a gnat to him. But I think Nolan Smith is just one more piece to that puzzle that's going to make that defense so incredibly difficult.
I was, out of all the guys, disappointed the most in him.
Really? Oh, boy. I thought he played better this week than last week. Go ahead.
He did, but did not really get I thought he struggled versus the run getting off blocks. I think he's a flyweight at the point. The only thing that really showed up was a big play, and he showed his speed chasing down that reverse and made a great play there. I think he lacks strength when he tries to counter. He has to beat you with speed off the edge or he's done. I just see him this year as just a role player, as a DPR only, and he still has a ways to go there. So
interesting. Okay.
Was disappointed in the first week, thought a little better this week, but still has a ways to go, in my opinion.
Okay. I don't know if I said it. I gave Bijan an A for his grade. I'll give Nolan Smith a B minus. How's that, Rick?
Is that better? Are you changing grade?
I changed. I marked him down. I had him at a B. I'll give him a B minus. The minus is from you.
Okay. I gave him a C.
Okay. You're grading. I see now. Okay.
I didn't, but just he didn't play in the B level to me.
All right. That's
one play.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Let's go back to Jacksonville and Detroit. We mentioned this guy earlier when we talked about Jack Campbell. Tank Bixby, the running back, 13 rushes, 70 yards. He was a problem. I noticed, I went back and read my notes from the draft, and a lot of times he likes to bounce things, even though he's 5'10", 215. And he bounced things successfully against the Lions. But when he stayed inside and ran between the tackles, he was incredibly effective. I don't know how the Jaguars feel about that, but if I was going to knock him for anything, I'd like to see him more north-south at times. But he's not dilly-dallying in the backfield. I thought he runs hard. He's going to run through arm tackles. He gets the edge. He doesn't offer much in the pass game. I don't think he had an opportunity here, but he didn't at least last year in college. But he feels like a great plan B after Trevor Etienne.
Yeah, this was one of my favorite running backs in the draft. Looked good when me and Pete were down there during training camp last week. A little birdie told me that in the combined practices with the Detroit Lions that he showed up all week in the combined practices. He did have the one catch, but he got nailed right away out of the backfield. The one thing that impressed me was he had to pick up a blitzer off the edge and stepped up in there and did a nice job in pass protection too. But this guy, to me, was an underrated player coming out. But you see the vision. You see how hard he runs. He has great contact balance, always going forward. And I think that he is faster than most people anticipated. At least his game speed is.
Agree. I gave him an A minus. All right, let's run through some of these wide receivers here who had some pretty impressive showings. Rashee Rice out of SMU. We saw him down at the Senior Bowl. Big target. I never thought he played as fast as he timed. I think he ran in the 4.49-ish range. Reminding me a little bit of Juju Smith-Schuster in this offense. Patrick Mahomes actually compared him more to Sammy Watkins. Either way, had 9 targets, 8 receptions, 96 yards, including a long of 38. Again, he's a huge target, and he shows the ability to catch the ball away from his body. The very first Rowdy ran, he dropped a slant and hit him in the face. He had another drop later in the game, but I think that could be more nerves than anything. Again, he's not going to be Tyreek Hill. That's not what they're going to use him for. He lined up outside, lined up in the slot a little bit, and I thought his versatility is what makes him the most enticing. But again, he's not going to be a guy that's going to get separation. He's going to have to win with physicality and contested catches.
Yeah, and one thing that I did think he showed that I didn't see in college, but he had a limited route tree in college, was that he is a little quicker out of his initial break than I thought he would be. But I thought he had very good hands, made a great catch in traffic over the middle, tougher than, no question about his toughness. Biggest thing is he doesn't have the juice after the catch. He has some wiggle, but I don't think he has the juice to pull away from anybody. But I think he will be a big body, solid option that will fit well in that scheme.
Yeah, we've seen that they can win without Tyreek Hill there, so you don't have to have that type of athleticism. Someone who is twitched up and who wins consistently down the field, but who is undersized. If he were in Rice's body, he'd have been the first overall pick. Trey Tucker, Cincinnati, sort of into college, plays for the Raiders. Had a tough week in preseason week 1. He dropped a lot of balls, and I'd read that he had dropped some passes during training camp. Looked much more consistent this week because my guy, Hall of Famer Aiden O'Connell, was throwing the ball. He separates. If you don't get your hands on the line of scrimmage, he's going to beat you down the field, and that showed up time and time again. When you get your hands on him, that's another issue. Played outside, played in the slot. I know, Rick, you don't like those guys at that size typically being outside, but do you think that's a regular season thing, or is that just something they're checking out to see if he can do it?
Well, he was so quick to avoid getting jammed at the line of scrimmage, and there's no question about his vertical speed. The biggest issue I have with him down the field is that he is not consistent in contested situations.
Right.
He has a step or two like your other Hall of Famer from Pittsburgh we talked about last week from Memphis.
Oh, Calvin Austin.
Yeah. If there's separation and they can get the ball down there, they're going to make big plays. But in contested situations, they're not. I think, as a kickoff returner, I went and watched all his kickoff returns. He's going to give them some juice as a kickoff returner. He did bobble one in the end zone and still brought it out, which was not a very wise move. But he is a little bit of a gadget guy right now. You can use him on some jet sweeps. There's no question about his speed, but I still think he needs some time to develop as a receiver.
Okay, I gave him a B. I like the fact that he's going in the right direction. And to your point about being undersized, and this is the conversation we have when we talk about the draft in the spring and the months leading up to the draft, is that you can be in the right place, but if you're 5'10" and you're not 6'3", it's hard to go over to beat Joey Porter Jr. to the ball.
Yes.
And that's the problem down the field.
Down the field.
All right, here's a guy that 2 years ago, much like Brock Purdy, we were having top 100 conversations about. Last year was an absolute disaster any way you looked at it. Kayshon Boutte, wide receiver out of LSU, win the 5th round, declared he's coming out, said he's going to go back to LSU, then decided to go out again. The Patriots took a flyer on him in the 5th round, and he looked much more energized playing for Bill Belichick. I'll just say that. And Bill O'Brien, very first play, he blocked the cornerback into the stands. And that to me said, okay, this is different than LSU, where maybe his head wasn't in the right spot. I don't know. But he looks motivated, and I like the way he played. They had to end the game early because of an injury to Isaiah Bolden, who I think is doing much better now. That's good. But in terms of the snaps I saw, played in the slot for the most part. Played outside mostly, had one snap in the slot. And he looks like a possession receiver. Now, he did have that, I think, 38-yard touchdown catch on the slant.
Touchdown.
How far was it? 49? What was it? 42, sorry. Okay, 42-yard. Bailey Zappi put the ball right on him, but he outran, essentially outran the other side of the field linebacker to the end zone. But whatever. I think possession is more his game than deep speed, but I'd like to see 2021 version of Kayshon Boutte than what we saw last year.
Yeah, and on that slant, you've seen the 21 version of Boutte, but he is playing with more energy because he's fighting for his life for a roster spot. He's only had 5 targets, I think, in the preseason. He's a possession-type receiver, but it was nice to see him flash his natural ability on that slant for a touchdown of 42 yards.
Yep, I gave him a B. I was encouraged to see that. And finally, our last guy here, Cedric Tillman. Out of Tennessee, injured much of last year, allowed Jalen Hyde to do his thing. But Cedric Tillman, when healthy, I thought he was going to be a real problem. He's been a real problem. He's been healthy. And again, he's sort of a souped up version of Rashee Rice for me. Like, I think he does those things a little better. And again, if Trey Tucker were in Cedric Tillman's body, he would have been the first overall pick, because that's what you want down the field. He can make back shoulder throws, catches, he might be able to make the throws. He can win downfield consistently, contested catches. He's a little twitchier than maybe you might have thought from last year watching him play. And I think he's going to be a valuable part of that offense, because they have some issues at the wide receiver position after wide receiver 1.
No, I think he's going to be wide receiver 4. But I do like, he is a possession receiver. He is a big body. He makes contested catches, excellent body control to go up and get it. He's not going to be much of a threat with the ball in his hands after the catch, but he's had a really good preseason. You see the Tillman from 2021, not the Tillman that had the bad ankle in 2022, and he will definitely help as he grows into a more significant role through the season, but he'll start out as a number 4.
Donovan Peoples-Jones, you think, is going to be the other starter?
Yep.
I actually like Cedric a little bit better. Donovan obviously has more experience. I think Cedric is going to end up being more consistent. And, of course, Elijah Moore is going to be in the slot. He had a good I think he's banged up now, but I think he had a good start to the first preseason before he got banged up. And, of course, Amari Cooper is there as well. Jake Haener played and got injured, but he looked pretty sharp when he was on the field. For the Saints, my guy Tuli Pelotu was absolutely dealing with Trevor Penning. That was fun to watch. Trevor Penning needs to play better. And my other guy, Nick Herbig, keeps flashing for the Steelers, undersized edge rusher. Just names I want to mention. Anything else, Rick? Anything else that tickled your fancy?
No, the New Orleans, the runner from TCU, kind of
Miller.
Yeah,
Kendra Miller. Actually, he looked. By the way, Jameis Winston, I think I told you this. You were calling me about the Paramount Plus setup. He looked like Aaron Brooks. He was so skinny. Number 2 out there running around. I didn't recognize him at first. So
yeah, no, he looked after first. He settled down, made some nice throws, but
yeah.
But
all right,
is going to be a pretty good option for them as a playmaker on New Orleans offense as well.
Who's that?
Kendrell Miller.
Miller. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you're coming back to your guy Haener, because I know you liked him as well too.
Yes.
All right. Remember, Rick, take note. You can watch us live on YouTube at NFL on CBS, and take a couple seconds right now to hit the old thumbs up and subscribe to the podcast. And finally, what's this? Oh, that's it. Episode 73. Had to get the number right. We've done 73 episodes. Unbelievable.
What are we doing for 74?
Oh, I'm going to tell you in 1 second.
Okay.
So on Thursday, Rick, we're going to take a look at our 10 favorite prospects heading into the college football season. So that's what we're doing on Thursday.
And they don't have to be all top 10 picks.
No, just your 10 favorite.
Like good football players that we've seen.
I think absolutely. We changed the number. I think we need like 5 from Ryan, and I think I want like 75 from Rick.
All first round picks. Okay. Yeah, your 10 favorite that you're excited to see. Like, I'm going to put on the list the slot, the Nick from Georgia. I'm going to put that guy on the list that we talked about last week. You can't
use my guys. You didn't even know who he was, so I sent you the damn list and we talked about it.
I'm going to put Mondon on there too, the linebacker for Georgia. Those are some early favorites of mine. So yeah, just like that. All right, so that's it. Thanks as always to Rick, who now has Paramount Plus. Congratulations on that, Rick. Thanks to Debo for producing, and thank you guys who watch and listen and comment. We appreciate you. We'll be back on Thursday to talk about these top 10 favorite prospects heading into the college football season. See you then.